As always, this is the five things coming to you weekly. This is the everything points to inflation issue. Again, if you're new here, head to the deepknowledgeinvesting.com website, sign up for a free subscription. Also, premium subscribers get access to all of Gary's current recommendations, portfolio, premium, opportunities, webinars, many different things for our premium subscribers, as well as access to any paywalled content that you may find on the Deep Knowledge Investing website. You can also email us ir@deepknowledgeinvesting.com with any questions that you might have. Moving to our last thing for this week's episode. Again, the fifth thing we talk about investment questions, and this one actually came from our reader, which is great. So again, we have Ask Gary on the website, ir@deepknowledgeinvesting.com. We want to know what you want to talk about, what questions you have. Gary, thing number five, great question. I'm curious as well. When evaluating a new stock, what's something or what should we examine first when making a decision or starting to at least do some research on that position?
So, Rob, this is a general response. Depending on what's going on, there are times that, you're just really looking at one specific thing, or, somebody gives you a thesis on it and you're trying to find holes in it. But, if I'm just looking at a company because I think it's interesting, my first cut is business quality. Right? I'm looking for a business with high growth, potentially improving margins, maybe some sort of competitive advantage, a reason to believe that the company's going to grow. After that, I'm going to take a look at valuation. Look, a company, a terrific company that's growing quickly often trades at a valuation that reflects that. We want to find some sort of misperception. Um, right. If a company has a positive outlook, but the stock price reflects that, there's a limit to how much I'm willing to pay for it. I also spend some time looking at what other investors expect and what the dominant narrative is. I want to know what I'm seeing that's different from what other people are seeing. If everybody looks at this and they all agree, hey, this is the story, and I think they're right, then there's probably not anything to be done. It's the moments when you look at it and realize everybody's looking in the wrong place or people have the narrative wrong. That's where you have an opportunity to make money. And then finally, I'll go through their financials and the model. I'll make a model, I'll build one. And I'm looking for any kinds of problems or red flags that would make me think there's something that I'm overlooking. And then finally, I take a look at management quality. I want to talk to them or see what they're doing, because good management can make a huge difference.
I've got a couple follow-ups on that, Gary. The first one being, I know one of the things you pride yourself on is finding things that the market is missing, right? So whether good or bad, where are you going to understand maybe what other investors are looking for, or what platforms are you using for your own research when you're looking into stocks?
Well, it's not so much platforms, Rob. Uh, Sometimes it's as simple as the fact that people will look at recent history rather than what's going to happen next. So I'll give you, a couple examples. One stock a couple years ago where DKI subscribers made four times their money. We were buying a company called Houghton Mifflin. HMHC was the ticker, for 4 and change, and the stock was bought for 21 13 months later. We did really well. But the reason the stock was trading so cheaply is because they sell educational materials, things like textbooks. And this was early in the pandemic. And so PTAs and school boards weren't meeting to purchase educational materials. They just said, whatever, we'll stick with what we have. And they didn't know what to do. And everybody was doing school from Zoom. And people said, oh no, this is a problem. And we took a look and said, well, yeah, it is right now. But the idea that our educational system is done buying textbooks is ridiculous. Any sales not made in 2020 were going to be made in 2021 or 2022. They're basically, what it was doing was creating pent up demand.
Hmm.
And so everybody was just looking at recent history saying that's what's going to happen indefinitely. I looked at the longer term and said, we're not done buying textbooks. We're not done buying educational materials for kids. And so these are the kinds of things that, that we're able to see, that, we're able to look at. Um, and those are the kinds of things that, the market often gets wrong. We had the same thing a year earlier. We made more than double our money in HCA, the hospital Corporation. It's the largest hospital chain in the country. That stock in 2020 was trading like it was going to go out of business.
Mm.
People thought, oh, yeah, it's COVID, everything's shutting down. And there were two things happening. One was the government sent HCA $6 billion to ensure they didn't go out of business. Their business was so good that a couple of quarters later, HCA took the $6 billion and sent it back to the government. They literally just said, here's your $6 billion back. We don't need it. But more importantly, right, people were saying, oh no, hospitals are going to go out of business. I looked at it and said, COVID is not the only medical problem we have to deal with. The idea that all of our medical capability, all of our high end medical facilities are going to be all COVID all the time, and no one will have to deal with cancer or heart disease or knee replacements or hip replacements or whatever else hospitals are dealing with on a regular basis, a car accident, somebody falls and breaks their leg. It was a ridiculous idea that all of our high end medical facilities were going to be focused on solely on COVID everywhere all the time. One other great example, my partner Raji Kabaz and I, when we were running Silver Arrow, we made a lot of money in an airline. Unfortunately, shortly after a window broke and a passenger was sucked out, it was a horrible situation and the headlines were terrible. And, that stock traded down like 25-30% the next day. But it was a one-off, right? They didn't have a maintenance problem. They just had a one weird freak, very unfortunate accident. But everybody was looking at yesterday's news, and we were saying, "Is this really going to be an issue going forward?" And figured that it wasn't going to be. So there are a lot of things that we can look at to figure out that everybody's just sort of focused on the wrong thing, and it doesn't happen every day. But a couple of times a year, we'll find something really good like that.
Sure. Gary, one thing you call deep knowledge is research, bottom up detailed research. So, first part of the question, what is bottom up detailed research? And second, how might that be different or differentiated from other types of research and investing approaches?
Well, so what we're doing is I'm spending a lot of time and effort really getting to know a particular company extremely well. And we'll have a very clear view on that company, its prospects, the outlook, what the finances look like, what the issues are, what the revenue growth drivers are. And there are times I may spend months studying a company and learning an enormous amount about it. But there are other strategies as well. Some strategies are catalyst driven, things like risk arbitrage or a capital structure arbitrage. Um, Other people don't do fundamental research like we're talking about, or even catalyst driven research. They're doing quantitative investing where they're looking at a chart and saying, the stock is trading above or below its 50-day moving average or its 200-day moving average, or the momentum is this or that. And they're going to trade based on that. And so the important thing is, there are lots of good ways to make money in the stock market, but the important thing is to understand the process and methodology that your portfolio manager or stock analysts are using. You should be able to ask them questions. And if you can't get a clear understanding of how they invest, it's probably not the right place for you. So, what I would suggest, and by the way, this isn't just for your professional life, this works in your personal life too. If you ask people simple, straightforward questions and they give you clear answers, and that's somebody who you can deal with in a whether in a personal or professional manner. If you ask these questions of an investment advisor and you don't understand the answers, or you feel like they don't know what they're talking about, or you feel like they're trying to speak above your head, I would be very uncomfortable with that. And that would, set off some red flags for me. So my advice to everyone on this is when you're looking at a different investment or a different investment manager or an investment service, something like Deep Knowledge Investing or one of our other, really good competitors, ask these kinds of questions. Ask what they do, how they do it, and see if you get good answers. And, make a decision partly based on whether you like the strategy and partly based on whether you feel like your questions were taken seriously and you understand what it is that, is going to be done with your money.
Great stuff there, Gary. And thank you to our reader for sending in that question. Again, If you'd like to ask us a question, head to deepknowledgeinvesting.com. Use the Ask Gary feature on the site as well. You can always use contact form. Email us at ir@deepknowledgeinvesting.com. This concludes this week's version of the five things. The everything points to inflation issue. Again, please head to our website. Sign up to be on our subscriber list. We'll at least alert you, notify you of when new content comes out, whether paywalled or not. And then as well, premium subscription to our service would be amazing. Or again, just thank you for watching, sharing, commenting, telling Gary how smart or the alternative, what you might think of him, might be. We appreciate everybody. Gary, any final closing words from you for this week's episode?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Always great doing this. We always enjoy our hour together. And for everyone else, thanks so much for watching. We know your time is valuable. We appreciate you spending it with us. And we are already hard at work finding another great five things to talk to you about next week. We will see you then.
Thanks, everyone.